Good afternoon and welcome to our September virtual town hall. It's nice to be back live with all of you again. Believe it or not, we have over 500 of you registered for today's event, so thank you for joining us. Obviously, a lot more people that we could fit live into Burger Hall, so thanks for joining us. My name is Chris Valentine, and I'll be your moderator for today's town hall. Those who participated in these town halls over the past year will recognize the format and remain much the same as we have done. We'll open with Chancellor Reddy with the campus update. Then we'll hear from Stephanie Rose Spalding, our Interim Associate Vice Chancellor of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, followed by Jesse Smith, our Associate Vice Chancellor of Research, and then Harper Johnson, our Assistant Vice Chancellor of Technology and Human Resources, will share a few thoughts. Then we'll open up for our question and answer for our panelists. Joining Chancellor Reddy today will be Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance, Chuck Litchfield, Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Carlos Garcia, Interim Provost Kelly Clevey, and Assistant Vice Chancellor of Health and Wellness, Stephanie Hannenberg. We have a handful of pre-submitted questions we'll start with and then transition to your live questions. If you're tuning in this afternoon and have questions for the panel, we encourage you to submit your questions through the link at the bottom of your screen. We'll address as many of them as time permits. As always, we'll include a summary of answers to the frequently asked questions in this week's communique. As always, ask for your patience with any technology challenges. We'll do our best to get back online if we do drop off. We have a team of folks in the background doing their best to get us back online. So we'll cross our fingers and hopefully we don't have any technology challenges today. So with that, I'd like to introduce Chancellor Venkat Reddy to kick off our show. Chancellor.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon and welcome to the September Town Hall. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to thank Regents Norbert Chavez, Callie Renison, and Leslie Smith for joining us today. We had a very successful start to the fall semester as we welcome students back to the physical campus. I know you're working harder than ever to make this semester memorable for our students. Your hard work is paying off. It is wonderful to see faculty, staff, and students walking across the campus. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you're doing to keep our students safe and engaged in campus life. Now, allow me to share a few updates, starting with COVID-19 health and safety measures. We'll start with some great news. We're reporting very high vaccination rates across the campus. 73% of students have submitted their vaccine attestation. 75% of those students are fully vaccinated, and 5.5% have received the first dose, bringing our student body to a vaccination rate of over 80%. Thank you, students. 88% of faculty and staff have submitted their vaccination attestation. 96% report being fully vaccinated, and 2.5% received the first dose, bringing our employee vaccination rate to more than 98%. So thank you, faculty and staff. Now, another important topic to cover is mask compliance. Despite the fact that we're enjoying a high vaccination rate, it's extremely important that we continue to wear masks indoors, which will allow us to continue offering an in-person experience at UCCS. Without participation from every student, faculty, and staff, we will not be successful at keeping the virus at bay. If a student fails to wear a face covering indoors, they'll be referred for a student code of conduct violation in accordance with the university rules and should be asked to leave the classroom. Repeated violations may result in permanent removal from that class. The same rules apply in any other indoor space where a student refuses to wear a mask. So far, everyone, especially our students, are doing a great job wearing masks indoors, and some of them are even wearing masks outdoors. So thank you, students. Keep it up. This and other precautionary measures are helping us contain the spread of the virus on our campus. Contact tracing is key to ensuring the health and safety of our campus citizens. To help with contact tracing, we're evaluating if we should create a system to allow for voluntary uploads of your COVID-19 vaccination card. If your documentation is uploaded and you're involved in a positive case exposure, you don't have to be quarantined. If you'd like to support us in our efforts to keep our campus healthy, you can voluntarily upload your vaccination proof. So keep an eye on our Friday COVID-19 updates memo. We'll begin with requesting voluntary uploads for students in the near future. Budget and enrollment update. As you may know, our fall census date was last week. Thanks to the hard work of many of you, we hit our budgeted student credit hours enrollment. Our target was a negative 2.8%, and as of census on September 8th, we were at negative 2.9%, which is quite an accomplishment, considering that at one point, we were projecting to be down more than 10%. We saw a significant increase in many student populations, including first years, out-of-state students, and transfer students. However, we had only 65% retention of students who entered last fall. Usually that would have been around 70%. So that's what impacted the overall enrollment numbers. The Bursar and Budget Office are working on the tuition model with this information. And so we expect a pretty good idea of the budget picture very soon. Next, the CU system-wide campus workplace and climate survey will be administered this fall. We have with us Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding, our Interim Associate Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, to share more information on this. So I'm now pleased to introduce Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding. Stephanie, you're unmute.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chancellor. It is a pleasure to be here with you all this afternoon. We are all still working with technology in these post-COVID times. I want to thank you for just being present here on campus before we even talk about the CU survey that is coming forward. Your presence in our community is extremely important. And it is part of why this culture and climate survey is being captured on our campus as well as throughout the CU system. In October, on October 12th, we will launch this survey. You will receive an email whether you are an undergraduate, graduate, faculty, or staff member. You will receive a direct email to your account that specifically allows for anonymity and confidentiality to help share your thoughts about your experience here at UCCS. We are encouraging that you, as well as everyone else that you know at UCCS in our community, participate in this conversation because it is a way for us to gauge how our campus is doing, how sense of belonging is taking place, and as well as moving from just belonging and inclusion to mattering. We want to know what your experience has been like. I do want to encourage you and say that we have taken every measure, every step to make sure that anonymity and confidentiality is protected, and that the data that will be shared afterwards will help us to move towards tangible, goals-oriented objectives to make UCCS an even more inclusive and excellent environment. Again, so as you are moving throughout the semester, please pay attention to the October release of the Campus Workplace Climate Survey, because your voice is extremely important in this process, and we do not want to miss anyone. Should you have any questions regarding this survey, please contact ir@uccs.edu. Again, for any questions regarding the survey, please contact ir@uccs.edu. Thank you, Chancellor, for allowing me to speak to the campus, and we hope to hear from each of you come October. I turn it back over to you, Chancellor Reddy.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. And knowing Stephanie, I'm sure she'll be reminding you all when the survey comes out to fill it up. So please stay tuned. Also have a related update on the Future of Work Task Force, led by Vice Chancellor Carlos Garcia. The task force is comprised of faculty, staff, and students, and taking into account each of their perspectives. So the task force created 3 subcommittees: the Essential Services Group, the Support Services Group, and the Academic Services Group. So each subcommittee is working to identify the challenges and opportunities for their groupings. So the task force larger report will propose action items and the potential impact of those changes. So I want to thank the members of the task force for their hard work, and I look forward to seeing the results of their efforts. In terms of searches, I'm also looking forward to welcoming finalists for the Vice Chancellor of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in October, and the finalists for the Provost position in November. So I appreciate the work of the search committees, and I welcome your active participation in the search processes. Well, there's a lot of positive things going on, even though we talk about COVID. So for some big news, it's fall, and UCCS athletics are back in full swing. Our student athletes and staff continue to follow strict health and safety precautions. They regularly perform screenings for COVID-19 symptoms, and those who are unvaccinated are undergoing regular testing. So thanks to these precautions, all of our fall sports are active, and the Mountain Lions are looking strong. Men's and women's cross country, as well as women's soccer, are nationally ranked by the NCAA this fall. Just last week, our women's soccer team defeated the number 2 ranked team in the NCAA. So I hope I'll see you at one of the games sometime soon. I'd like to extend my appreciation to the staff and coaches of the athletics department for all the work they're doing to keep our athletes safe. Go Mountain Lions. So I'm also delighted to share that the University of Colorado signed a partnership with the United States Space Force last month on our campus. And we also benefited from the generosity of a UCCS alumnus that resulted in the dedication of the Kevin W. O'Neill Cybersecurity Education and Research Center. At this point, I welcome some special guests to give updates in the areas of research and HR. So first, we'll hear an update on research. Just last week, Associate Vice Chancellor for Research, Dr. Jessie Smith, provided a great update to our CU Board of Regents. And I've asked her to come and share that information with all of us as well. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chancellor, and hello, everybody. Indeed, it was a privilege last week to showcase the UCCS research to the Board of Regents, who were especially interested in our cyber and national security related research. I know we are all proud of the many types of research transpiring here at UCCS today, but I thought it'd be nice to share some of the good news around cyber and national security with you. If you don't know, the CU system strategic planning includes discovery and impact as one of the key pillars. 2 of the metrics that are used are graduate students and funding, which makes sense as these are also the metrics that the Carnegie considers for R2 eligibility. And we're doing really well on both metrics. Our FY26 goal, for example, is 14 million. We've already blown it out of the water. We've got researchers bringing in funding from a wide range of agencies, such as the National Endowment for the Humanities and the National Security Agencies. And researchers are winning highly prestigious awards, like the NSF Career Award. And if we break down our funding from last year, fully 40% of our sponsored programs are coming from our cyber and national security affiliated researchers. And speaking of cyber, those researchers are also mentoring graduate students. At UCCS, if you don't know, we offer a master's degree in computer science, a master's degree in cybersecurity, an MBA emphasis in cybersecurity management, and a very new Doctor of Business Administration in Cybersecurity Management, which just started this fall. Already 15 students enrolled. All told, we have 121 graduate students enrolled in cyber programs on campus at this very moment. Our culture of research at UCCS encompasses knowledge production, partnerships, and of course, student success. And all are key to that discovery and impact plan. Highlighting cyber and national security, for example, did you know that our faculty and students doing this work are in 5 of our 6 academic colleges and schools? And they are studying mission critical research topics that you'd expect, like artificial intelligence and blockchain, data security, encryptions, but also some topics you might not expect, like cybersecurity needs for the criminal justice professionals and cultivating wellness through digital citizenship. Discovery is only half the battle. And at UCCS, we know that making an impact works better with a we approach instead of a go it alone approach. And this is why our partnerships are so important. Our faculty, staff, and students are partnering with our local and national stakeholders in the military, industry, government, K-12, and other higher ed institutions. The goal is to disseminate and collaborate in this knowledge production process with our broader community. 2 quick exciting partnerships that I want to share to illustrate this impact. our collaborations with the National Cybersecurity Center, which is housed on UCCS property, has led to our founding membership in the Space ISAC, which stands for Information Sharing and Analysis Center. This is the most comprehensive single point source for all threat security information. UCCS is standing shoulder to shoulder with leading industry and university members like Northrop, Microsoft, Johns Hopkins, Purdue, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and many others to share, analyze, and convene to mitigate risk to the space mission. As a second example, and the Chancellor just mentioned this, is our new United States Space Force CU partnership. This funding begins in FY23, and UCCS will focus on 3 areas, one of which is collaborating with Space Force research areas, things like on-orbit satellite updates and space domain awareness, AI, machine learning. We're also going to focus on innovative educational opportunities for our students, including new masters in aerospace and a new cross-disciplinary masters of science as well. Which brings me to the final theme that I know we all care deeply about, student success. Again, highlighting cyber and national security, this means preparing the next generation of our security and cyber workforce. And our students are working with faculty mentors on research projects like cryptographic algorithms on embedded devices, studying the secure and trustworthy cyberspace, and even the security of smart homes. I am sure everyone here knows that UCCS plays a unique and pivotal role in exposing our students to hands-on research with our faculty experts. Research experience is a high-impact practice that improves retention and graduation, and we're really proud of our research apprenticeship model that we offer to our students across all kinds of research and creative fields. And if you haven't checked out the Center for Student Research, please do. As we wrap up my few minutes, it's important to remember that our expansive Southern Colorado community affords remarkable opportunities for distinctive excellence in what I've highlighted here as security and cyber, with our focus on knowledge production, partnerships, and student success. But I would be remiss if I didn't conclude by mentioning we are pretty remarkable in other ways too. Our health, wellness, and resilience research, our sustainability research, our DEI research, just to name a few. UCCS is a high research activity university, and I hope you join me in taking great mountain lion pride in that fact. We are only successful in sustaining and growing this discovery and impact because of your vision, your leadership, and your day-to-day support. So thank you.
Dr. Smith, thank you so much. Dr. Smith will remain with us during the Q&A session so she can answer any research-related questions. So thank you for that great presentation, and hopefully we can hear more from you in just a few minutes. So, our next presenter this morning, this afternoon actually, is Harper Johnson, our Assistant Vice Chancellor of Technology and Human Resources. He will now share a brief update on the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act. Harper, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Chris. Thank you, Jesse. That is exciting, and as always, amazing to hear just how much we do here, right? But there is nothing more exciting or amazing than the people who make up our campus community. People who are why we are here. People are at the core of our UCCS Discuss 2030 strategic plan, and I am excited to announce that this Friday we are kicking off the next phase in the development of our People Strategy 2030. We will begin engaging the campus community to participate in this effort. After all, this is your plan. We can't build it without you, and we look forward to working with you to do so. Of course, nothing gets our people more excited than conversations about pay, so I'm here to provide an update on the university's implementation of the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act. The purpose of the Colorado Equal Pay for Equal Work Act is to prevent pay discrimination based on protected classes. It ensures that employees are paid equitably for performing similar work. As a reminder, it does allow for pay differences, accounting for seniority, merit, education, training, experience, and including relevant external experience, geographic location, travel, and quantity and quality of production. We are already making progress in revising the university policies to reflect this new law. And those are well underway and being reviewed by our different campus community members through the faculty assembly, the staff council, and so forth. In addition, we are contracting with an outside partner to help our limited resources to take a holistic approach in implementing the Act. This will help us to do this work this fall instead of pushing it out further into the spring semester. Thank you, Chancellor and the Cabinet, for allowing us to move forward with engaging that outside resource. Please note, this does not include lecturers or graduate students at this time, but will at a second phase. The next phase of the work is set to begin in early fall. This is all to ensure that we are taking care of you, our most important members of our community. We'll have more updates as the work continues this fall. Thank you all for your time, and I appreciate it and look forward to seeing you on the campus this summer.
Harper, thanks for that update. All right, well, it's time to transition to our question and answer session today. So we have just a few pre-submitted questions that we're going to kick off with, and then we'll transition to your live questions. So I encourage you, please continue to submit your live questions through the link at the bottom of your screen. And of course, we'll get to as many of them as we can in the time we have left. So I think we have almost 40 minutes here to get to Q&A here. So please submit your questions and we'll do our best. So introducing our panel once again, joining Chancellor Reddy will be Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance, Chuck Litchfield, our Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Carlos Garcia, Interim Provost Kelly Klebe, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Health and Wellness, Stephanie Hannenberg, and Associate Vice Chancellor for Research, Jesse Smith, who just presented, will stay with us as well. So, any questions for any of those folks, please feel free to go ahead and submit them. So we have 6 pre-submitted questions, so we'll start with those. So the first 2 questions are for Stephanie Hannenberg. So Stephanie, we received a number of questions around the mask mandate. The Chancellor addressed this in his comments, but I'd like to invite you to take a minute to speak briefly about the effectiveness of face coverings in preventing the spread of COVID.
Thank you, Chris. So as many of you know, the guidance that has come from the CDC, World Health Organization, as well as places like Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, American College Health Association, and our state and local health department is that when you're seeing a significant amount of spread of COVID in a region, they have found that by everybody wearing masks, it helps reduce the transmission. Masks are just one component of the big picture and how we try to prevent the spread. But we have decided to implement this because we know that it has been effective on our campus. Throughout the last year, we did not have a single spread of COVID in a classroom setting or a work setting. And to date this fall, I'm going to knock on wood really quick while I say this, we have not had any spread in a classroom setting despite getting rid of our social distancing. And I believe that we can attribute that a lot to wearing masks at this time. So we are very fortunate that most of our spread has not been in any settings where masks were involved. So that's why I think it's important for us to know that this is just one tool that's helping keep us in person. And that is so important for us right now.
Thanks, Stephanie. Go ahead and leave your mic on. Next question is also for you. It says there's some confusion about contact tracing on campus. Can you kind of walk us through that process a little bit and kind of educate a little bit how the contact tracing process works?
Sure. Contact tracing is confusing for everybody involved. So the easiest way to explain it is we are bound to report all positive cases to the health department. So COVID is a mandatory communicable disease that must be reported by labs and providers. So when we're asking faculty and staff to notify us about positive cases, I know there was some concern if it's HIPAA involved. We actually have a memorandum of understanding with the local health department that anything that's related to UCCS comes through the Wellness Center, and we help manage that contact tracing for the campus. So once a faculty or staff member turns that information over to the Wellness Center, we then confirm that the case either came from us reporting it or from the health department. We don't do contact tracing unless we know there was a definite positive. At that point, we then go to the positive case and gather more information. Where were they on campus? What were their close contacts? And try to see who we think that we need to follow up with. At that point, we then go out to those cases. This is why it's very helpful, if possible, and we understand that some classes are so large, this isn't always possible, but if we can get a seating chart and an attendance list, it really helps us narrow it down. If we have a class of 120 people and we don't know where the positive case sat, we cannot narrow down who was in the realm of people that we might need to quarantine. So then we take that list and we go back and look at all, say, 120 students and try to figure out who's vaccinated and who's unvaccinated. And then they get different messages. So a message will go out to those students if it's in a class that we are unable to narrow it down. that either tells them what they need to do if they're vaccinated, which is monitor for symptoms and we can test. Unvaccinated, we'll ask them to quarantine. And then as we're hearing back from students and we're able to narrow down that they were not in that radius that we're concerned about, we're then releasing them from that quarantine and having them monitor symptoms. The voluntary request to upload records, the reason that is so helpful is because we use those records to determine who does need a quarantine and who does not. So at this time, vaccinated individuals are not being asked to quarantine. Again, the CDC guidance is that they monitor symptoms for 14 days and they test somewhere between days 3 through 5 after exposure. So somebody from the Wellness Center will walk everybody through that. If they are unvaccinated, again, if we determine they're a close contact, they will be asked to quarantine for 10 days. If they live on campus, we are asking that they do a test after day 7 to be released. So again, having as much information as we can have makes this a quicker process. Contact tracing is extremely time intensive and it takes a lot of effort. So I just want to publicly thank the Wellness Center team that has been working tirelessly to manage the vaccination records as well as contact tracing, because it comes with a lot of work. That's why we're asking so many questions and asking people to voluntarily load records just to help ease that process, which in turn helps you because we can get people back to work in class much faster once we have that.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. There's a lot to that. So I know from the Provost's office, an email went out to faculty and staff a week or so ago with kind of outlining the details there. So you can check your email if you want to kind of review what Stephanie just reported on. It's also on the COVID website under the news section. You can click on and find that email there as well. So yeah, I know Stephanie had a lot of information there. It's hard to capture it all, but if you want it in writing, it is on the website or in your email. So,
and just one more quick thing too that I'm sorry I forgot to say. If somebody has not done their attestation and we do not have records, they will be counted as unvaccinated and placed in a quarantine if we deem them to be a close contact. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear as well.
Thanks, Stephanie. All right, we'll transition to the next question here. So a number of other people have asked questions about the future and the impact of COVID in the remainder of the semester. They asked about events and large classes being limited or even potential campus going remote again. So I'd like to ask Chuck and Carlos to share their best advice for people who are planning events or concerned about the possibility of the campus going remote again. So I know we can base this on the information we have today, but Carlos, can you give us some thoughts around events, kind of the future and what that might look like? And then we'll transition to Chuck in just a second. Carlos?
Thanks, Chris. So on campus events, as you know, we are currently allowing on-campus events at full capacity. And though we're not requiring social distancing, we are certainly encouraging it. We also are not restricting off-campus visitors, though we are asking them to do the well check before they come onto campus. But if things get worse, we may then need to limit capacities and or visitors on campus. So if you're planning an on-campus event, I would suggest that you have a plan B in place, such as a hybrid meeting or a virtual option, just in case we have to make adjustments. But again, presently we are allowing events to take place on campus, and we have, thousands of them actually scheduled already to take place on campus. Thanks, Chris.
Chuck, do you want to jump in and talk about kind of the possibility that campus maybe going remote, some of those trigger points? Your mic's still on mute there.
Thanks, Chris. I want to echo something that Stephanie said, and that is that our plan in dealing with the virus has always been to produce a defense in depth against the virus. Even last year, we used masks and barriers for instructors in the classrooms, and we still have those in place today. In addition, we are able to double the air volume cycling through all of our buildings that have HVAC, and we have all of the MERV filters necessary to filter the virus. And we are continuing to use those tools as well to help protect our campus. We monitor the cases, the positivity rate, the hospitalization rates in the county. We look at the data that Stephanie provides from her contact tracing. We look at our ability and capacity for contact tracing. And we also monitor where we think there may be outbreaks on campus. We have been very fortunate. We have not had any outbreaks on campus since the fall started. But those are the types of conditions that we would look at to determine whether we would implement more restrictive measures before we would go remote. Again, the idea here is to layer in more restrictive measures to try and preserve the opportunity to optimize the student experience. Going remote is a tool that the chancellor has not hesitated to use when he felt that the health and safety of the campus was threatened. And we will do so again if it is necessary. The health and safety of the campus are imperative for us to pursue our student success mission.
Thanks, Chuck. I mean, it's hard to have a crystal ball to know exactly what the future is going to hold, but I appreciate the thoughts there. Chancellor, question for you. One of our audience members asked, when will town halls be in person or maybe have a hybrid model again? So I know you're excited to get back in person at some point. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would love to have seen this town hall in person if possible, but I think as you look at the news, the cases are going up again, so we don't need to risk people coming to an event when we are able to do it online at this time. So I'm going to continue to be hopeful that the next town hall will be in person. So we'll continue to gauge that, but we need to be thoughtful that we don't want to put people's health at risk like Chuck just mentioned. I think we're going to keep that as a priority. And as far as we can continue to share information this way without risking people's health, we'll do it. But like you know, I'm the first one to propose, can we come back to campus? So we hope that one of the next ones will be on campus.
All right, we'll cross our fingers. Chuck, next question's for you. We had it pre-submitted, and I've also seen a number of questions come through live on the same topic here. So the Chancellor shared he shared the latest attestation results in his remarks. We had at least one person ask for clarification around the attestation process and why we're not requiring documentation like other campuses are. So Chuck, could you provide some insights on the attestation process again?
Thanks, Chris. So first of all, I want to echo what the Chancellor said, which is we feel like our attestation process is going well. Nearly all of our employees have completed the attestation. And while we still need about 25% of our students to conduct their attestation, as the Chancellor said, if they don't, we will put holds on their enrollment. But I think that what I hear a lot is, so why did we choose attestation? We chose attestation because it meets the needs for us with regard to understanding the status of our entire community. And we wanted to respect the idea that we value integrity. And so our process, both on the staff and faculty side and on the student side, in attestation, has allowed us to collect that documentation. And because they are electronic processes, we have the ability to go back if we desire, as the Chancellor started talking about with the voluntary provision of documentation, to go back then and collect that documentation if we think that's necessary. I'm also asked often if we think that the attestation is an effective representation of data on the campus. And our answer is yes. And we have two proxy data points that we frequently look at to give us confidence in the attestation process. The first is we did require documentation for students who are going to live in housing this year. And the proportion of the vaccinated and unvaccinated students that are living in housing has followed the proportionality of vaccinated and unvaccinated students that we have seen in our attestation. Second, we, like other campuses, have gotten access to the state's database with regard to vaccination records for Coloradans. We have given the state our list of Colorado resident students. They have cross-referenced that with the records that they have on hold. And it turns out that their data also confirms the proportion of students that are vaccinated and unvaccinated, as we have seen in our attestation process. So I think both of those proxies give us some confidence that the attestation process is working in terms of informing us about the level of vaccinations on the campus and therefore informing how we would do certain operations on the campus.
Yeah. Thanks, Chuck, for clarifying that. So, I mean, it's complicated and there's a lot to it, but I appreciate you explaining that. Last of the pre-submitted questions is for the Chancellor. And Chancellor, we actually had a couple of questions submitted live on the same topic, so I think your answer can cover it all here. But the person said, employee morale is very low. People are not well due to burnout and large amounts of institutional knowledge and skill that are being lost due to attrition of staff. So Chancellor, I believe we had some technical difficulties there. Our team in the background got us back online, so we missed a bit of that question here. So for those of you who are watching, we're going to rewind back to our last question of the pre-submitted questions. So Chancellor, questions for you. We've had a number of folks in the live questions as well as the pre-submitted questions ask this. So the person asks, employee morale is very low. People are not well due to burnout and a large amount of institutional knowledge and skill that are being lost due to attrition of staff. So, Chancellor, can you take a moment and share your thoughts and perspectives on the future here at UCCS?
Thank you, Chris. This is never an easy question, but I want to say I hear you. I do feel it. I see it every day in all aspects of my life as well. We need to recognize first that this is a global phenomenon. This is a global pandemic. And we are victims like everybody else around the world. And in fact, I know we were all looking forward to a normal, whatever the normal means for the fall semester. And it didn't happen. In fact, I even had canceled all the town halls thinking, well, we may not be needing one anymore because we're going to get back to normal. And that didn't happen. We had to restore the town halls, and we'll continue to have those as long as it's needed. The variants definitely changed our plans. So there are unexpected phenomena externally that are coming and hitting us. And it's not just the pandemic. We have challenges on the political side, on the diversity, equity, inclusion side, on the mental health illness side. So all these have compounded to create more stress in organizations and in people. Now, what's going to keep us strong is to remember that we move forward with the notion or assumption that we may be in this together for the long term. Because whenever you have an expectation that something is going to be at the end and it doesn't end, I think we're going to fall even lower. So maybe we need to be resolute in this and say, well, we're going to accept this to be that we're in the long run, just like we get flu shots every year. And we'll eventually get through this pandemic, but no one knows how long it's going to last. So I think we'll be less distressed if we accept where we are right now so that we can continue our journey and work towards our goals. I also think we are happiest when we connect with our mission. We all have to remember why we are here, to make a difference in the students' lives and really to create and share knowledge with the communities we serve. And more importantly, when I look at the students coming in, I just shared with you, we had big jumps in our first year enrollments, transfer enrollments, out-of-state enrollments. These students are coming with a lot of hope and trust and faith in us to say, we believe that you're going to transform our lives. And I want us to take hope in that and say we are here to accomplish a bigger mission. So we need to stay strong. I understand there is a lot of challenges. You're all going through a lot of stress. But at this time, we being together is the biggest medicine I can think of. And we'll continue to work hard. I'll also ask our supervisors to stay in touch with their employees on a regular basis, because this is the time we need each other. So I'll continue to work hard. We'll continue to invest more in the areas that we need to invest. For example, we invested more in mental health resources, not just for students, but for faculty and staff. And I talked to Stephanie. I think we still have capacity to help people in that arena. So I would like you to kind of make sure that you reach out resources, reach out to your supervisors, and don't hesitate to shoot me an email. And if there is something I can do that would be helpful, we'll certainly discuss and be there for you. I just want to say thank you for what you're doing in these tough times. But just know we're all in this together and we're here for a higher purpose.
Chancellor, thank you for those words. I know they mean a lot to all of us here, and your thoughts and your vision for the future there. We're going to transition now to our live questions. So thank you all for submitting questions. We have about 20 minutes or so here to get to as many as we can. So we'll jump right in here and see how far we can get. So we've had a number of questions about the Office of Sustainability. So Chuck, I believe this is in your area here. So one of them says, over the past 15 years, UCCS has established itself as a leader in sustainability efforts in higher education. And so the question is, do you see that focus diminishing, or is there a process actively underway to establish a full director of sustainability and bring in other paid staff in this office?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think the answer to that question is that both our campus strategic plan and the system strategic plan have given us a mandate to reinvigorate some of those efforts. The campus has come a long way, and for a regional university of our size, we really have made tremendous inroads into sustainability efforts. But what we expect to do over the next decade, I think, will show that we still have some room to grow there. As a part of the deferred maintenance and sustainability pillar for the system strategic plan, we have a pretty extensive 5-year plan to invest in energy savings, greenhouse gas emissions reduction on the campus, and to become a partner to the Greater Colorado effort on environmental sustainability. With regard to our ability on campus to have personnel and programming, both for students and for our employees, we will be stepping up those areas and allowing for those to contribute to what we have always thought of as the natural connection between our campus here on Austin Bluffs and our environment in Colorado.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, that's top of mind for a number of people asking questions today, so I appreciate the update. So I understand the sustainability strategic plan is being written this year as well. So this is an academic question, so I'll pose it to the provost. So Dr. Klebe, it says, we're hearing from students that they, I believe meaning faculty, are not being flexible with attendance policies and their syllabus when students are sick and waiting for COVID test results. So the question is, what is required or being recommended for faculty around working with students who are COVID positive or have to miss class? Thoughts around that?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. We're asking faculty to work with students who, are trying to work with them when they are sick or quarantined or isolated, either from the experience, from us asking them to because of what may have happened in a classroom exposure, or something's happening at their family and their children may be quarantined, exposed. So we're asking faculty to work with students to try to accept their work and to get to their work. We are not asking faculty to run a completely online section or a hybrid section if they haven't already established that for their classroom. They don't have to switch from an in-person class to a hybrid classroom or a remote classroom. but we are asking them to work with students so that students can be successful and finish this class.
Yeah, thanks for that guidance. Next question is for Carlos. And his remarks, the Chancellor touched on the Future Work Committee, but the question is, what process has the Future Work Committee progress has the Future Work Committee made? And when can we expect a date when information in this committee was made public to campus?
All right, thanks, Chris. The committee has been working since the first part of April and met throughout the summer as well. And so we're now in the process of beginning to get our recommendations together so that we can provide a report to the cabinet, hopefully sometime towards the end of October or the beginning of November. One of the challenges that we are faced with is, as the Chancellor mentioned earlier, we all kind of thought things would be a little different by January, which is when we are hoping that the recommendations will be implemented by. Things don't seem to be headed in the direction that things will be much different in January. So we're grappling with that piece of it now and how we approach that. So we may have to come up with recommendations A, B, C, or D, depending on the scenarios that we're facing at the time. Because the future work really was never intended to deal with the fall semester, but more the spring semester and going forward. But the groups have been meeting, as Chancellor Reddy said. We broke up into 3 different groups: one to deal with academics, support services, and also essential services, because each have unique needs and unique situations that have to be addressed. And then we also have subject matter experts that we've called upon to help us with this process, and that's representatives from IT, representatives from HR, and our space manager on campus. So all of these folks combined with the, I think it's 18-member committee, are working hard to come up with some recommendations that we can implement, again, safely, and allow individuals to plan, hopefully for the spring, on how we can continue to all work to meet the mission of the university.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. Great work from that committee there, you and all the folks that are helping you out there. So thanks for that effort. Next question, the quick one for Stephanie Hannenberg. So question is simply, what is the timeline for contacting faculty and staff or students who have been exposed to a positive COVID case on campus? I know you kind of gave us a rundown of the contact tracing, but what's that timeline? How soon can we expect to hear if we're exposed?
Glad somebody asked that because I forgot to say that earlier. So the timeline is once we confirm a positive case, we contact the positive case themselves fairly quickly, usually within an hour or 2 if we're able to. It depends how many cases are coming in at a time. Some days we're more efficient than others. Not everybody will always be notified, though. If we know that there was a class of 20 people and we know that that student only had a close contact of 1, we will not tell the entire class and everybody else because they don't need to do any additional measures. And so we don't want to have them worrying about having to do things that aren't necessary. So we will always tell the students that are directly exposed. If we cannot determine who is a close contact, that's when we send out mass communications. So an example, there were a couple of days last week, we sent out 300 to 400. One day we might have even sent 500 notifications for a couple of the cases that went to multiple classes. And then the next day we might send out 10 because there's only a few contacts per case and we know exactly who was that close contact. So we try to resolve everything in 24 to 48 hours at most. It is much faster the more information we have. If we know if people are vaccinated, we know where they sat, and then we know who they had close contact with, we can do it in a matter of hours. If we have no information, we have to look everybody up and start researching everything. It is much more time intensive and can take us a couple days, which is why we ask for so much on the front end. It just makes us go faster. And again, I just want to say this, we are doing our best to keep up, but for every one of you that is emailing it, 5 more are emailing at the same time. So they are coming in, not one at a time. So it's not that we're ever ignoring, it's that we are just trying to manage the volume in the most efficient manner possible.
And thanks. So the answer is it depends, but hopefully within 24 hours is the goal.
Yep.
Very Very good. Harper, thanks for staying with us here. I got a couple of questions for you. We'll start with this one. With your HR hat on, is why this start with you. Maybe one of the other leaders might chime in. So we talked about faculty members a second ago with the provost, but this question is, how should we approach an inflexible supervisor who unilaterally has said no to working remotely, even though we've shown the ability to effectively be effective and productive since the start of the pandemic? So guidance for a staff person looking for a little more flexibility in their role. What should they do?
Thanks, Chris. That's a great, very interesting question. I would recommend that they work with their supervisor directly to do that. What we have done as a campus and as the cabinet has provided the flexibility to each division to determine the capabilities of their division, the requirement of their division and their departments to support the campus in the appropriate manner. And so I would suggest that that individual work directly with their chain of supervision. And ultimately, it's up to that division to decide whether or not that position is eligible to work either remotely, hybrid, a little bit off, or not. So that is within each work group to make that determination. And we have left it up to the supervisor and their supervisors to make that determination.
Great. Thanks for that guidance. We'll have a couple more HR questions, but we'll go to a couple other questions first and hopefully get back to you with those. So the next question is for Jesse. So the question is, can Jesse Smith say more about the Center for Student Research?
Thank you, Chris. Absolutely. studentresearch.uccs.edu. The Center for Student Research started in 2019, and even in the midst of the pandemic and the shift, I'm so proud of the work that the Center for Student Research has accomplished. The mission is to prepare and support both our undergraduate and graduate student researchers, as well as their faculty members across all of the disciplines. I mentioned in my remarks that we're really proud of our aspirational mentorship model with our faculty and other students. We also have a special part of the mission of the CSR, which is dedicated to really paying attention to underrepresentation of first generation, minoritized, marginalized students, making sure that we have a really good inclusive culture of research that is especially paying attention to those students' needs for participating in research and creative works. We have, I think it's 165 at last count, but I think that number is growing rapidly, student members, and about 45 faculty members of the center right now. Easy enough to become part of the center, lots of workshops, lots of programming, lots of resources, and really at the end of the day, a lot of support. So studentresearch.uccs.edu.
Great job rattling off that website for us. Thanks. Next question is for the provost. It says, for Dr. Klebe, in your interim role as provost, what do you see as your top priorities for the year? So you're probably going for a long time. We have just a couple minutes left, but can I hit the highlights of what your priorities are for the year?
Some is to keep the ship going. Thanks, Chris, for that question. But you know, we're implementing the new budget model. And so making sure that the deans and the budget office are working together to understand that and see how it may impact is an important goal. And we are, trying to work with faculty governance to see what their needs are as they progress through the year. They're having a lot of good conversations this year about key topics on campus, and I'm interested to hear what they're doing. And then we'll try to support kind of new degree programs. And there are a couple policies that need to be in place around instructor promotions and hires, or I should say IRC faculty. And so we want to make sure that we get those things done so that there are good processes in place on campus to support our all of our faculty.
Yeah, great job covering all of your duties in 60 seconds there. So we appreciate it. We've got a couple minutes left here, so we'll try to hit 2 or 3 more questions here. So next question is for Chuck. Says, Chuck, is there any updates on the HERF funds for students, such as when those funds will be available for applying for? We talked about the last town hall, and they're just following up with that question.
So I'm not as good as Jesse at rattling off websites, but in fact, we do have some HERF funds that are available to students just like we had in the previous semesters. And the link for that information on how to apply for that is on the financial aid website.
Right, financial aid website, got it. Harper, next question is for you. There's actually 2 questions about this topic. I think one kind of summarizes it. So it's about your Equal Pay for Equal Work Act that you talked about. It says, if we feel that we are being paid inequitably due to compression or job descriptions that have not been updated for a decade or so, what processes do we follow to get our position reviewed?
Great question, Chris. Thank you, and thank you for the person who asked it. The current process is for the faculty side. Each college has a faculty grievance process that they should work through. On the employee side, what we are doing is we're working through those one by one. If you feel that you have a grievance, then you should reach out to the employee relations group and let them know, and then we will start to work through that. As we mentioned before, we're trying to do this as a campus-wide effort and be able to treat everybody equally at the same time. But if you have a grievance, then there is a employee grievance process and there's a faculty grievance process, and those are both outlined in policies.
Great, thanks. All right, the next 2 questions are for Chuck. So Chuck, first question for you. How will President Biden's mandate that companies with 100 or more employees are required to be vaccinated affect us here at UCCS?
So the short answer on that is that we are working with our legal team right now to understand what those requirements will look like, and we will let the campus community know as soon as we get some clarity on that.
Terrific. And last question for you, Chuck. Are there plans to increase our facilities team so cleaning can be increased? It seems this would be the time when cleanliness is crucial to prevent illness, and we seem to have fewer staff now than ever before. So I know that's a challenge. Can you chat about that for a second?
I can, and it is true. We have fewer custodians now than we did pre-COVID. We posted a number of custodial positions in May in anticipation for the full campus return in August. Unfortunately, that is one labor force that we are having a lot of difficulty filling positions in, like a number of other labor forces that are not rebounding as well from COVID. It's one that we're having difficulty filling positions. And our goal is to restore the custodial staff to the levels that they were pre-COVID, as well as additional folks for buildings that came online like Kibble during COVID. But we need to be able to hire those folks.
Thanks for that update. I want to leave a couple minutes for the Chancellor to wrap it up here, but last question, Stephanie Hannenberg. For those who have not received their COVID vaccine, are there any opportunities on campus coming up in the near future for folks to get their vaccine?
Chris, there is, even today at 3 o'clock, there is an opportunity in the Wellness Center for people to still sign up and get their vaccine, going today from 3 to 4, but we are trying to host clinics every 1 to 2 weeks, and these are open to everybody that is UCCS affiliated. We highly encourage people to come. If somebody has a moderately to severely immune compromised issue going on, we are also offering the 3rd dose of the Moderna to those who have received Moderna for their 1st and 2nd dose. So please take advantage of using these clinics since they're free and right here on campus. Thanks.
Perfect. All right. With our last minute or so, Chancellor, I'm going to turn it back over to you to wrap the town hall up. So, Chancellor Reddy.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Before I forget, I just want to give a huge round of applause to the leadership on the screen that you see, all the folks who shared, and many others on the campus who are really committed to making sure that the campus mission is crucial at a time like this and helping our students. So thank you all. There was a question on sustainability. I just want to say sustainability strategic plan is being written this year. So, and it is open for campus feedback. So I call upon you to help us with your feedback on that. So I want to close with a reminder about why the work we do is so important. So let me share the story of one of our students, Madison. Madison is a nationally ranked competitive figure skater who is also passionate about her education. Even while she trains at the Olympic Training Center, she also dreams of becoming a physician. And she's putting 100% of her effort into her academic success. She's conducting a year-long research project with Dr. James Kovacs. Their research question is so important to human health that they're joining thousands of scientists around the globe to attempt to solve it. So I want to share this story not just because it is impressive, but also because so many of our students have stories that are just as incredible. Our students are dealing with a lot, but they're also working tirelessly to achieve their dreams. And our work to support them has a real impact in their lives and in their futures. I know we're all facing hard times, so let's remember that we are facing these challenges together. And the work we do every day is important. It helps to transform lives for the better. Without your commitment to the success of our students, the dreams of students like Madison will just remain dreams. So I cannot emphasize enough how critical the work of our faculty and staff is in the success of our students and the communities we serve. So I came across this in an article I thought it would be important to share at a time like this. So having a value system, a sense of identity, a purpose for one's existence increases the odds of survival and resiliency. And that's what we are asking for today, right? Because our value system is strong, our purpose is strong, and we have a great sense of identity. So I really think together we can transform the world and stay resilient during these tough times. So I just want to thank you all for your commitment, even at a tough time like this. So thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to seeing many of you on campus in person.